It all started on what was supposed to be a regular Saturday morning. The sun had just started rising over the fields. The dew was still fresh on the grass, and I was ready to get a head start on harvesting. I've been running this small farm for years, and timing is everything. Crops don't wait, and any delay can mess up the whole season. But when I rolled up to my barn to pull out the harvester, I slammed the brakes. Right there, blocking the barn door like she owned the place, was a brand new silver Porsche. Not just parked a little in the way. I mean fully across the entrance like she did it on purpose. Now, I don't like jumping to conclusions. But when I saw who stepped out of the car, it all made sense. Karen, the same neighbor who's been giving me trouble ever since she moved in next door. Always complaining about the noise, the dust, the smell of cows. As if she didn't know she was moving next to a working farm. We've had words before, but this was something else. I waved her down, trying to keep it calm, but she just gave me a smug look and said, "You should really consider a more aesthetic setup. That big machine is ruining my morning view." I couldn't believe it. My crops were ready. The weather was perfect. And this woman thought her Porsche's paint job was more important than my harvest. I gave her one last warning. Told her politely firmly that she needed to move the car or I'd have to get the job done one way or another. She smirked, tossed her keys in her purse, and walked off like it was a joke. That's when I knew this wasn't going to end the way she thought. Karen wasn't just any neighbor. She had moved in about 6 months ago after buying the old Simmons property that sat right across from my east field. From day one, it was clear she had a different idea of what country living meant. She'd show up to neighborhood meetings wearing heels that sank into the gravel, talk about upgrading the scenery, and complain that the roosters were waking her up too early, and now blocking my barn door with her Porsche. That was just the cherry on top. I tried calling her, but of course she didn't pick up. I paced a bit, looking at that shiny car, the barn doors just inches behind it, and the sun creeping higher by the minute. The longer I waited, the more the risk grew. The forecast had called for rain by late afternoon, and if I didn't start harvesting soon, I could lose a chunk of the yield. Farming's not just my job, it's my livelihood. Every hour mattered. I started to think back on the smaller things she'd pulled. Like the time she called the county inspector because she said my tractor was too loud. Or when she tried to have my chicken coop moved farther from the property line. It wasn't just about convenience with her. She wanted control. She wanted everything her way, even if it meant stepping on others to get it. And yet, despite everything, I still stood there trying to figure out the right thing to do. That Porsche gleamed under the rising sun, its tires just inches from the hay bales. My harvester stood ready inside, massive and still, waiting for me to pull it out and begin the day. But the clock was ticking, and Karen clearly wasn't coming back anytime soon. That's when a thought crossed my mind, one I never imagined I'd seriously consider. I stood there, watching the dust settle over the gravel driveway, thinking through every possible option. I could call the sheriff, sure, but by the time they'd get out here, the clouds would be rolling in. And even then, what would they really do? Maybe ticket her for blocking a driveway. That wouldn't get my harvest started. Meanwhile, Karen was probably sipping her overpriced coffee on her porch, watching from behind those fancy patio curtains, thinking she'd made her point. I walked back into the barn, pacing under the wooden rafters, running my hand over the side of the harvester. The irony hit me. Had a machine that could plow through rows of corn, rip through rock-hard soil, but I was being stopped cold by a parked car and a smirk. That's when the calls started coming in. First from Mike, my hired hand, wondering why we hadn't started yet. Then from the coop, asking if I'd still be making my drop before sundown. I didn't have answers, just stress building up in my chest. Down by the fence line, I spotted old Mr. Jenkins, my neighbor from 2 plots down. He waved, then pointed at the barn with a questioning look. I just shook my head. Everyone around here knew about Karen by now. Word spread fast in a small town, especially when someone rocked the boat like she did. There was even talk that she was trying to push for zoning changes, turn the farmland around here into residential estate lots. The kind with 0 lot line homes and no tractors in sight. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about a Porsche. This was bigger. Karen wasn't just blocking my door, she was trying to block everything I'd built, everything this community stood for. But I wasn't about to back down. Not now. Not with my season hanging in the balance and a storm rolling in. The clouds were thickening now, turning that soft morning gold into a heavy gray. Every second counted. I kept checking the time, watching the sky, and eyeing that Porsche like it was the final boss in a video game. My harvester was idling inside the barn, humming low like it knew what needed to be done. Karen's car still sat there, bold as ever, like a giant silver middle finger to my entire operation. I called her one last time, straight to voicemail. No surprise. I even walked over to her property, knocked on the door. Nothing. Curtains still drawn. No sound. Either she was gone, or she was deliberately ignoring me. And knowing Karen, both were equally possible. The longer I stood there, the more it felt like a setup. Like she wanted a reaction. Maybe even one she could twist around, play the victim, like she'd done before. I wouldn't put it past her. Back at the barn, the ground beneath my boots felt damp already. The first drizzle hit my arm, just light, but enough to tell me what was coming. My harvest window was slipping away. I looked around at the empty field, at the ready rows of wheat just waiting for me. This wasn't just inconvenience anymore. This was sabotage, quiet, polished, luxury brand sabotage. I was trying to keep the peace, but peace wasn't getting. My crop in, and then, like it was meant to test me one last time, I spotted something. A camera. Karen had mounted one of those sleek little security cams on a post near the edge of her property, pointed directly at my barn. It hadn't been there before. My stomach turned. This wasn't random. She was recording, waiting, watching. Took a deep breath, walked back to the barn, and climbed up into the cab of the harvester. My hands gripped the controls tighter than usual. The rain was coming. So was the decision. And I knew. Once I made it, there'd be no turning back. Just as I settled into the harvester seat, trying to steady my nerves, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a call or a reminder. It was a notification from our local neighborhood app. I almost ignored it, but something made me look. And there it was. A post from Karen, written just 20 minutes earlier, with a photo of her Porsche parked in front of my barn. The caption read, "Some people don't deserve nice views. Maybe this will teach him to keep his rusty junk where it belongs." My jaw clenched. She wasn't just playing games, she was broadcasting it, turning the whole thing into a twisted neighborhood spectacle. The comments were already flooding in, split between folks laughing and others clearly uncomfortable. But that wasn't even the worst part. Buried down in the thread was a comment from someone named Ron B54, short for Ron Baxter, the guy who works for the local zoning board. He wrote, "Should have just filed that complaint yesterday, like we talked about. If the barn's not within setback guidelines, we can force a teardown." My heart dropped. I'd heard rumors that Karen was pushing for something bigger, but now it was out in the open. She wasn't just after a clean view, she was after my land, my barn, my entire operation. And she was willing to manipulate every inch of red tape. To get it done, I looked out across my field again, then back at the camera perched across the fence line. The pieces were falling into place. Karen had been planning this. The Porsche wasn't parked there out of spite, it was bait. A trap. and I was standing right in the middle of it. The storm clouds were rolling in faster now. Wind picking up. The scent of rain sharp in the air. My finger hovered over the ignition. I knew that whatever happened next wouldn't just change my harvest. It might change everything. The rain finally started falling slow at first, then harder, tapping against the windshield of the harvester like a countdown. I stared at the barn doors, the Porsche still blocking the way, that sleek, spotless car daring me to make the first move. My crops were out there waiting, soaked and vulnerable, and Karen's smug post was still flashing in my mind like a dare. I didn't want trouble. I never did. But I also wasn't going to let someone like her erase everything I'd built with. Backhanded tactics and online drama, I fired up the engine. The harvester roared to life, louder than usual in the tight barn, echoing off the wood. I inched forward slowly, careful, the nose of the machine pushing against the barn doors until they creaked open. That's when I saw Karen standing in the rain, phone in hand, already recording. Her expression wasn't shocked, was expectant, like she was waiting for me to make the wrong move. She wanted the footage. She wanted a viral moment. I stopped. The harvester sat there with the engine running, watching her through the wipers. Then I did something she didn't see coming. I turned the wheel, backed out slowly through the side of the barn. Kite cleared a path around the back months ago. I'd cleared a path around the tack, but just wide enough for the machine. I never used it, but I had it ready for emergencies. Karen's eyes widened when she realized I wasn't going to touch her car. I wasn't going to give her the moment she craved. But just as I reached the field and started the first line of harvest, I heard a loud crack. A branch from the old maple near her property weakened from the wind and rain, split clean off and dropped right onto the hood of her Porsche, dented it like a soda can. She let out a scream, ran toward it, forgetting all about her camera, and I kept moving, row by row, engine steady, rain pouring. No drama, no confrontation, just work, just the farm doing what it was built to do. But I'll say this: nature has its own sense of justice.